Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another post-World Cup video.
Welcome back, Isaac, from the World Cup.
Thank you, man. This time we got AAvfx join once again, and we're going to be ranking every single team that has participated in the World Cup. I already did a video before the World Cup ranking all these teams, but now we got to evaluate how each of them did. And these rankings will be based on how well they did in the tournament, obviously, but also kind of on expectations, of course. So for this video, we're going to go in order of groups. So starting off with Group A, go down there, and we'll each share our rankings from 1st to 32nd place. Before we get into this ranking video, let's take a look at today's sponsor, OneFootball. OneFootball is the perfect free application you can download on your phone, on iOS or Android, in order to receive the latest football news from any league or competition. Instead of Googling everything over and over again, the app allows you to be way more organized with keeping up to date. All in one place, you can check the latest scores, player ratings, and statistics across any league or year, and get all the latest instant news. You can also add filters to the news you're receiving, so it's either tournament or team specific. And if you want even more instant updates, you can favorite certain teams you wish to receive notifications for. One of my favorite new features, though, is watching selected leagues all across the world live through the application. I highly recommend you get this app as it's free, easy to use, and you'll be one of the first people up to date on everything football related. Go download it now, link in the description below. Let's get into it, starting off with Group A, with the hosts, Qatar.
Qatar. Although the hosts, I think it's pretty obvious what we're all making. You couldn't win a game. You couldn't do much in the tournament. I got to give you 32nd place. Sorry, Qatar.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Irfan here. The expectations weren't high for Qatar, of course. A lot of people are banking on this side to actually crumble in their group, but they are now officially the worst ever host nation in the World Cup.
I'll be fair. Their games were good to watch. I love the games they were playing, but you couldn't get the job done, and that's why you're 32nd.
I might even have to disagree with that.
What? Really, I love watching them.
The only goal they scored was against Senegal. The hosts are supposed to do better here. South Africa were the first ever hosts to get knocked out of the group stage, but at least they got a win. Qatar failed to get a single one, just one goal. Ecuador outplayed them at the beginning. That's when we knew this side is going to struggle, and they very much did. Wasn't a good look from Qatar. I was expecting a lot more, especially the fact that this side has prepared for this tournament ever since they got the bid. They appointed Felix Sanchez, who was able to take them pretty far in other tournaments, actually won some as well in the past. I was expecting them to at least get one win or a draw, just something out of this, but nothing. Now let's take a look at Ecuador. Despite failing to get out of their group, they got a win, a draw, and a loss. 4 points. Their one loss was to Senegal. You got to give this side props, though. Enner Valencia was fantastic. Unfortunately, though, they did lose to Senegal at the end, but before that match, they were looking like a really convincing side because they even drew to Netherlands.
I agree with what you're saying right here because Enner Valencia was my favorite player of the tournament when we first started watching these group stages. 3 goals already. I was like, oh, he might be the top goal scorer if he keeps going forward. Even though they got grouped, I'm still ranking Ecuador high. I'm ranking them 12th.
I went pretty high for them as well. Usually I try to base it off of where each team finished in the World Cup, so if they got grouped, made it to round of 16s and all that, but I bent the rules for Ecuador. I was really impressed with this side. Probably one of my favorite sides to not make it to the knockouts based on the way they played. I mean, they were looking really cool and composed until that second Senegal goal. It was an unfortunate way to concede. Gifted the ball to Koulibaly to net that in. I've gone for Ecuador at 14th place.
Who's right above them? I put Senegal at 11. Senegal is the reason Ecuador got knocked out, and because of that, I just put Senegal at 11th because look how far they got it. They played exceptional football, 2 wins.
All up until that match against England, obviously. Yeah. Senegal were really great in the group stage. They lost that opening match against Netherlands, but come on, that was expected. I was surprised Netherlands couldn't get 3 for 3 wins in this group, just based on the football they've been playing lately. That's another reason why I'm saying shout out to Ecuador for getting a draw against them. Yeah. But yeah, I also went for Senegal just above Ecuador, simply because they did the job against them at the end, right? And although they were not convincing in the round of 16s whatsoever, they still made it there in the first place. And we can't take away anything from England because they were exceptional in this tournament.
And then we got the Netherlands. First place in Group A with 7 points, 1 draw, 2 wins. And the man of the team was, for me, in my opinion, Gapco. Netherlands shocked me, and I put them 6th. in the entire World Cup. The way they played, and then the way they beat the USA 3-1 in round 16.
I went just above you, Irfan. I went for Netherlands at 5th place. Netherlands were able to dominate their group for the most part. And, like you said, got a convincing win against the USA. Absolutely shut them down. I went to that match. It was incredible football from them, genuinely. Denzel Dumfries was exceptional. So many players to talk about there. Like you mentioned, Gakpo, Virgil van Dijk, cool and composed. And their match against Argentina. Come on. They took it to penalties with Argentina once again. And that final free kick was, in my opinion, one of the best moments in the World Cup. It takes some balls to take that kind of set piece. I mean, it was a brilliant effort. Wout Weghorst, beautiful substitution, getting a brace, keeping Netherlands in the race. And even with that penalty shootout, the save that Emi Martinez made on Van Dijk, that was an exceptional save. I won't even say that was a bad penalty. Netherlands really were up to the task here. And although many people predicted Argentina to beat them, they still put off a fantastic fight, man. And the fact that they got knocked out on penalties is a bit unfortunate. We could have seen this side genuinely go all the way. So I think they deserve all the praise, and I'm putting them at 5th place. Now let's move on to England. I believe that this side could get out of their group, okay? They had a very doable group, without a doubt, and their Nations League group was tough. But their Nations League performances is what had me thinking that this side wouldn't live up to the hype. However, I think they did. They played some exceptional football. They scored 6 goals against Iran, failed to score against the USA, sure, but then put 3 past Wales, then again put 3 past Senegal in the round of 16s, and then in the quarterfinals, they had to face France. And we all know how exceptional France have been. And to be honest, at moments, actually for majority of the match, in my opinion, England were looking like the better side. They got unlucky. They got 2 penalties, sure. Harry Kane skied one of them, which ended up costing the match. In my opinion, they were one of the best teams that failed to make it to the semifinals. I have Netherlands just above them, though, but I still got to give all the credit to England. I don't think Southgate should get sacked. They really were looking like potential favorites once this tournament went cracking. Again, their group was doable. They should have topped that group regardless, and they didn't get 9 for 9 points, but no team in the World Cup did. Jude Bellingham, Saka, Rashford. So many of these players have turned up. I genuinely was surprised with Rashford just because he's been all over the place. So yeah, I'm putting England just below Netherlands at 6th place.
I praise them a lot. I'm continuing to praise them. I think they're by far one of the best teams at the World Cup, and they just got unlucky because they got paired with another best team at the World Cup at France, because if they didn't lose to France, they could have been against Argentina in the finals, in my opinion. You said 6th place for England. I say 3rd place for England. It's a shout. I know people might hate me for that, but they are one of the best teams in the world right now. Top 5 in my opinion, but I'm gonna give them 3rd in this World Cup.
No, I think you got to give credit to England. Look, I went mostly on this ranking based on how each team progressed in the World Cup, which is why I'm cutting England short. But I don't blame you for giving them the praise. They really pushed themselves, and again, unlucky against France, man.
Saka, man. Saka was a show-out player, dude.
Now for the United States of America. This is another team that I've kind of bent the rules with because, again, I went for placing on how well each team progressed. USA did the bare minimum to progress.
I still can't believe you doubted them.
They made it out of their group. I wouldn't say in style, though. Yes, we drew against England, which is fantastic for the USA. To them, that's considered a win. And they were undefeated in this group. But they failed to beat Wales, which in my opinion was one of the worst teams at the World Cup. Based on performance, by the way, I was expecting a lot more from them at the beginning. And then they scored 1 goal against Iran. So a 1-0 victory was their best performance. And then they just simply got outclassed by the Netherlands. Obviously, this squad has a lot of young players to boast about, and they have so much potential. I see USA having a genuine solid run in the next World Cup once we are the hosts. And also, there's a lot of talk about problems in the dressing room, Gio Reyna getting in a feud with Berhalter, and what set this team back a lot for me was the coach Berhalter, which is why I doubted them so hard. But for my ranking for the USA, although they made it to the round of 16s, I'm putting them just below the 16th ranking at 17th place.
I think my pride got me where I got them right now. I got USA ranked 13th amongst the nations because they got to the round of 16, because they played well against England defensively, because they held their own against Iran. People say they hate Berhalter. I think the whole squad hates Berhalter. They were playing for themselves. They weren't playing for the coach. That's why they made it this far. They are very talented, very young. A lot of players under 25. You'll definitely see them at the World Cup again.
Still, I can't ignore that they did the bare minimum. I can't ignore all that crap in the dressing room with Gio Reyna and Berhalter. which is why I'm putting them a bit lower. But again, shout out to the USA for proving me wrong, because I doubted this side for so long, saying that it was really going to be tough for them to make it out. But again, I don't mean to discredit them, but their group was doable. It really was between USA, Iran, and Wales. And USA were just the most composed team out of the bunch. Now for Iran.
Although I did doubt this team a lot, Iran have showed pride. They beat Wales 2-0 here. And that gave everybody hope that they can beat the United States of America. That game was fun to watch. Although USA was attacking, as soon as USA got their goal, they played back. And then Iran started attacking. It was just a good game to watch. Exciting in the end. Unfortunately, I ranked them low coming into this World Cup. And they are low on my standings. I got them placed 24th overall at the World Cup.
I expected more from this Iran side, as for those of you that have been keeping along with my channel since the beginning, I was pretty hopeful in this side to make it out of the group. Their 2018 results speak for themselves. To me, they were one of the most exciting sides to not make it to the knockouts in 2018. However, that wasn't the case this year. Their glory moment was against Wales, beating them 2-0. Couldn't beat the United States, which was the ultimate objective, and all they needed in that match was a draw. And Iran are such a defensive side, and they still failed to be defensive. Pretty disappointing this side, not to mention they did score 2 against England, but they also conceded 6. Sure, they got a win, and I know some people were doubting this side since the beginning, but I still had a little bit more faith in them. So I put them just below you at 26th. Brilliant attack that I've been boasting about for so long did have their glory moments without a doubt. But the fact that they couldn't deliver against the United States, I think, is a letdown.
Hey, man, when you got Captain America, Christian Pulisic, putting his balls on the line for the country, you're not going to lose. So shout out USA. Sorry, Iran.
Now for Wales.
They scored, what, 1 goal the whole tournament? And that was a penalty kick from Bale? I don't have much to say about this. I expected a lot from Wales. Not enough to get past USA, but playing a lot better. I thought Wales would go off because it's his first World Cup. Didn't do much except for that penalty. I'm giving them the 29th rank in the World Cup.
Yeah, Gareth Bale at the helm is why many people backed Wales to have some good results here, and he failed to do anything, man. I don't count that penalty. That penalty was a gift from Walker Zimmerman. Overall, as a team, very disappointed. This side is known to show a lot of heart in tournaments. Euro 2016, they had a deep run. Euro 2020, they only made it to the round of 16s, but they finished in 2nd place in their group when many people expected them to get 4th after all of that Turkey hype. They've risen to the occasion then, but they couldn't this year, and I'm going to be putting Wales at 31st place, just above Qatar. I'm really disappointed in this side, and I know a lot of people are saying Ronaldo was the flop of the tournament, but to me, it's Gareth Bale. He's going unnoticed because obviously his country doesn't have as much expectation. He was a ghost, and I thought, you know, he'd be able to do well for his country despite him not doing well for club. He always pulls through for Wales. He did in the qualifiers right before this tournament, but he couldn't do it in Qatar, and I'm ranking them at 31st. Now moving on to Group C, let's start off with the World Cup winners, Argentina. Their 1st place. They won the entire tournament. I know this side is getting bashed still regardless, saying that this tournament was rigged for them because they got so many penalties. Messi was still the best player in the tournament in my opinion. 7 goals, 3 assists, got the golden ball, and fully deserved from this man. He finally won the trophy that he has been desiring his entire career. They had a rocky road at the beginning, losing to Saudi Arabia, sure, but that was the most massive wake-up call. Got 2 clean sheets after that against Poland and Mexico, beating both of them 2-0. Only beat Australia by 1 goal, but we got to give some respect to Australia. We'll talk about them later. Drew with Netherlands, like we said, but then demolished Croatia 3-0. And then in the final, yes, 3-3 France, one of the most thrilling finals we've seen. You're going on about Argentina getting all these penalties. Mbappe got 2 in that match. Wasn't always on Argentina's side. I mean, I know it seemed that way. There was one penalty call I thought was ridiculous, which was against Poland. And obviously people are still talking about that call against Livakovic. Obviously not just Messi though. Alvarez was incredible, scoring 4 goals this tournament. The defense sharpened up after Saudi Arabia. Otamendi in general had an absolute revival to his form compared to his 2018 performances. This side overall has improved so much since the last World Cup, and it obviously took them to glory this year.
I understand your logic. I understand your reasoning. They are the World Cup champions. They deserve to be 1st place. But I don't think they're 1st place. In fact, they're 2nd place. Pessi. Penalty. Half his goals were from penalties, bro. Yes, I agree. He was one of the best players in the World Cup. He deserves it. But the other players, come on, Di Maria. Without Di Maria on that field, they would not have won that fight. And then as soon as he gets subbed off, and what happens? Mbappe. Mbappe carries the whole French team again. So Argentina still got some issues they got to work with. Their performance, they lost to Saudi Arabia the very first game. They probably got too cocky. I don't know what happened. They deserve second place, in my opinion. Let's move on to Poland. Poland. I ranked them pretty high, to be honest. I didn't expect them to go even out of the group. I expected Mexico to surpass it. But as you see, it was goal difference. They just conceded one less goal than Mexico, and that's why they're second place. And I gave them 14th place at the World Cup because of that.
One player that really impressed was their goalkeeper, Szczesny. He kept this side in the race. He was thrilling to watch. He saved a Messi penalty. He kept 2 clean sheets before then as well against Saudi Arabia and Mexico. And I actually predicted that this would happen, that Poland would advance over Mexico based on goal differentials. To me, Poland are just that side that did the bare minimum. Not the most exciting, I know. Lewandowski was actually pretty disappointing this tournament. I put Poland at 16th place, just above the USA. Now let's move on to Mexico. And like we said, Mexico got unlucky here. Same amount of points as Poland. Goal differential is what set them back. Mexico did have some exciting moments in this World Cup. Chavez scored a banger against Saudi Arabia. But I said at the beginning, guys, Tata Martino is going to be what sets this Mexico side back. And it's very much what happened. This side, I hate to be repetitive, but they were doing the bare minimum to qualify for this tournament. I know that they got the same amount of points as Canada in the qualifiers at the end in CONCACAF, but they were really cutting every single match close. And they did it once again here. Obviously, they were going to lose to Argentina, but they drew with Poland 0-0, and they tried to scrape it through for that goal differential, and they just couldn't because Saudi Arabia scored on them in the final match day despite them beating them. So to me, not the most convincing side in this World Cup, and with the quality they have, they should be doing better, but I've given Mexico 23rd place.
Oh, that's quite low, to be honest. Because I gave Mexico 17th place. I loved watching Ochoa. He made an amazing penalty save. When he plays for Mexico, bro, it's pride, and you love to see it. I just love watching Mexico play. Unfortunately, they did draw against Poland. I think Mexico expected to beat Saudi Arabia by a lot. They did not, and that's why they lost in goal difference. That's why I gave them 17th place at the World Cup.
Now for Saudi Arabia, probably the most exciting side that finished in 4th place. This side beat Argentina at the very beginning, as we already mentioned. Although, sorry, with the screamer. But then they failed to do the job against Poland and Mexico. However, they were playing good football in this tournament, and many people doubted them. Sure, they still finished 4th, but come on, you were not expecting them to play this well. Just couldn't convert their chances, and like I said, that was going to be their problem at this World Cup. But Hervé Renard really has seemed to get the best out of this side, despite not getting the results at the end. Therefore, for Saudi Arabia's valiant efforts, I've put them at 24th place. Maybe they shouldn't have been gifted those Rolls Royces that soon after beating Argentina.
That performance against Argentina, I think everybody was like, oh crap, here comes first place for Saudi Arabia. They paid out refs, they paid Qatar, they're gonna go to the finals. Although they did do well, I still ranked them below Iran at 25th place. France, former World Cup champions of 2018 Russia, back-to-back finals. Who can say they've done that aside from Brazil and Italy? But they didn't win them. That doesn't matter. They played exceptional. Mbappe put the team on his back for the finals. Giroud played an amazing tournament. A lot of people, this guy too, thought they're gonna get grouped. They thought the World Cup curse was still true. The World Cup curse started with France. It ends with France. I said France are first place of the world in the World Cup. They didn't win it, but I still believe they're ranked first in the world and in the World Cup.
Shout out to France for proving me and many others wrong about that World Cup curse. I thought it would happen just because of all of those injuries, but they pulled through regardless. Their attack was looking phenomenal. Giroud, very clinical. Mbappe, absolutely electric. Griezmann, the glue to the team. So much great talking points about France. Sometimes they cut it close, but I mean, so did Argentina, right? And I put them at first. France made it to a World Cup final. For me, they get second place. Now let's move on to Denmark. Everybody's dark horse at this tournament. They blew it, man.
Overhyped.
I had them getting first in the group. Some people are saying they're going to make it to the final. And what happened to them? They finished 4th place with 1 point. They couldn't beat a single team here, only getting a draw against Tunisia. They already beat France twice in the Nations League. I know France are an elite side, but they had the experience against them before. They couldn't do it this time around. They failed to Australia in the final match day, and they couldn't score against Tunisia. Sorry, Denmark, but this was very, very dreadful from you guys. I expected more. Everybody expected way more from this side. Probably the biggest letdown, I think, in this tournament. Of course, there are a lot of upsets here. A lot of giants crumbled. But Denmark was that one side everybody felt safe on banking on to at least make it to the knockouts.
Ruin my whole bracket, bro.
So many people's brackets, man. I'm sorry, Denmark. I love you guys, and I hope you guys make a great return in the future. But I am putting you all at 28th place.
Ooh, yep. I agree with everything you said. I mean, I put him at 27th place.
Now for Tunisia. This side managed to get 4 points. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. And they had some solid efforts, but their one loss was against Australia. And don't get me wrong, we'll get into Australia later, but that was the one match they just had to get 3 points in, right? They got a win against France, which was exceptional, by the way. However, France's lineup then was very interesting. Regardless, though, shout out to Tunisia for getting me at least one scoreline prediction right in this group. So all they really had to do was close out that Australia game, and they failed to do so, which is why out of all those teams that got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss that failed to make it to the knockouts, despite getting that massive result against France, it didn't mean much in the end, obviously, because Australia were able to beat Denmark. I still got to give credit to this side, though, but I was expecting them to be the ones to be the reason why the World Cup curse was present, and obviously it wasn't. But again, those were kind of my upset expectations. I know other people weren't expecting much from this side. You got to give them credit for at least having some moments here and there. But like I said, the one match where it was expected them to at least do something because it was even on paper, they failed to do so. I put Tunisia at 22nd place.
I put them at 19th place. And Australia, you just said it too. Australia played made it a Socceroos, baby. I gave them 18th.
I gotta praise this side, man. Beating Denmark ain't a joke. Lekia's goal was fantastic. What a story Australia have told at this World Cup, man. I doubted this side so hard. I said easy 4th place. No. They grabbed 2nd with just 1 hefty loss against France, but that was France. Beating Denmark and Tunisia was exceptional. They did it in great style. And then in the round of 16s, they got unfortunate to face Argentina because they still put off a very good fight there, which is why I'm going to give Australia so much praise and put them amongst some of the best teams that got knocked out in the round of 16s. I'm putting Australia at 10th place.
Ooh, that is high.
I know, but they deserve it, man. Graham Arnold really proved me wrong, man. I didn't think they had what it takes from their shaky qualifier run. Although you can say maybe he did the bare minimum by only grabbing 1-0 wins. The expectation of this side was just too low. And they proved us wrong. Even in the round of 16s, what a fight this side have. Shout out to Australia. Now let's move on to Spain.
Spain's first game against Costa Rica. 7-0, bro. But they didn't win the group. Japan won the group. Alvaro Morata came off the bench. He played pretty well. Dani Olmo played amazing this whole tournament. Bro, Spain is a top 10 team, in my opinion. And this is why I placed them number 9 at the World Cup rankings. That this whole tournament, yeah, they're just a great team. And it's typical. They're Spain. Spain have never been a bad team.
Why are you forgetting about their loss against Morocco, though, in the round of 16s? Not even that convincing in the group stage. Apart from that Costa Rica match, it's like they let out all their energy there. All their goal-scoring efforts there. Other than that, this side was just always focused on the build-up play. They had the possession. They had great passing techniques. But where did that take them? They got knocked out to Morocco. And I love Morocco. They did a fantastic job in this tournament, of course. But this side was just always focused on the build-up and failed to deliver.
Morocco are a defensive team. We'll talk about Morocco coming up, but there's a reason Spain's 9 and somebody else is above them.
Look, Spain, of course, have all that legacy. They won the World Cup in 2010. No disrespect to this side, but I was expecting more from them. They also just squeezed through. That 7-0 result against Costa Rica is what saved them from being in Germany's place, actually. Enrique's selection also was a bit questionable. We tried to ignore it as he did very well in the Euros with that interesting selection, making it to the semifinals. So the expectations were very much still there for Spain. They got knocked out too early, and I'm putting them at 11th place. Now for Germany, like we said, they just got upset on goal differentials thanks to Spain's 7-0 win against Costa Rica. They were only able to beat Costa Rica 4-2 on the final match day. That final match day in Group E was something else, man.
Once they were leading, then they were down again, they were leading again. It was a wild. At one moment, I was looking at my text. I was texting somebody. I see up. Oh crap! They're qualifying. And then I look back down. They're not qualifying. It was a wild time. Like, this is why I put Spain first. They got the result because they put more goals against Costa Rica. If you're Germany, you have to do the same thing against Costa Rica. You can only manage to score 4 and concede 2. You shouldn't have conceded any. You should have kept on scoring to get that second place spot. You couldn't do it. And that's why I gave Germany 16th place. You can't get top 15 if you can't get out of the group stages 2 World Cups in a row.
Yeah, very disappointing from Germany. This is not a result to take in lightly. Like you said, 2 World Cups in a row, getting knocked out in the group stage. It's not a pretty sight. History has repeated itself there, and also repeat for Spain as they got knocked down in the round of 16s on penalties in 2018 as well, to a quote-unquote underdog. Both these teams were pretty disappointing here, but the fact that Spain made it further, I gotta give them more praise. Germany getting knocked out of the group, man, I'm sorry, but that slow start at the beginning, the fact that Japan was able to beat both of them, very, very impressive side. But I'm going to say Germany falls short to 18th place. Now let's take a look at Costa Rica. Like we already talked about, that 7-0 defeat to Spain was pretty brutal. And then they got a win against Japan, which took everybody off guard as they just beat Germany, but then they failed to do it against Germany after that. Costa Rica had one of the heftiest losses in the World Cup, and for that reason, despite getting a win against Japan, I'm sorry, for me, they get 30th place.
Yep, I agree. I mean, it's not 30th place for me, but it's 31st. They're by far the worst team besides Qatar because you conceded the most goals.
There are many other teams that got 3-for-3 losses, and Costa Rica avoided that, of course, but I can't credit that Japan win too much. I'm sorry. But now taking a look at that side, Japan, man, what a story they have told in this World Cup. Like we mentioned, they beat Spain and Germany. They only had 17% against Spain when they beat them. That's a record for least amount of possession in a win in the World Cup. A lot of people were against Croatia in the round of 16s because they just wanted to see them tell a beautiful tale. And unfortunately, they got knocked down penalties in the round of 16s. They put off a really good fight in the first half, but Croatia were able to sort themselves out and fight back. But in that first half, man, they were looking incredible against us. I got to give them a lot of praise. To me, one of the best teams that failed to make it to the quarterfinals. I put them at 9th place.
Nice. I mean, I'm close over there. Spain's my 9th, but Japan is my number 10, top 10. They break the top 10. Watching them, I was low-key rooting against you guys, Croatians, because I was like, Japan, that's a fire story. Imagine if they go far.
Yeah, the counterattacking football that they played was just next level. Really the most unique fashion. To get out of a group like this, nobody expected them to top this group. Some people were saying that there was going to be an upset here, but no one, most people at least, were not saying that they would top Spain and Germany. They defeated both of them. Somehow they couldn't defeat Costa Rica, but this side deserves all the praise. Shout out to Japan. Best of luck in the future. Group F now, starting off with Belgium. This Belgian side was obviously extremely disappointing. They got a win against Canada, but in my opinion, it was not very convincing. Just 1 goal from Batshuayi, and Canada actually played really well in that match. That was probably Canada's best display despite getting all 3-for-3 losses. Belgium scraped through there. Then we saw all that news in the dressing room about De Bruyne saying that this side doesn't have what it takes to make it to World Cup final, and that clearly got the worst out of the rest of the players, because then the defenders went back saying, yeah, we probably could score more goals if it weren't for our aging attack. This side was not at their peak mentality. We saw the best out of them in 2018, but holy crap, have this golden generation disintegrated. Lukaku coming on as a sub against Croatia was genuinely such a terrible performance. He got unlucky hitting the post, but I didn't feel too bad for him after, obviously because I wanted to see Croatia win, but also he had some terrible misses. But even before then, man, they lost to Morocco 2-0. People were going on about how this side could struggle, but not many had enough balls, like me, to say that they would get grouped. And they did. This Belgium side, I'm sorry, I'm concerned for them in the future, and I'm going to give them 21st place.
We expected the golden generation. They're the copper generation, bro. De Bruyne wasn't doing nothing. I gave them 22nd place.
My biggest concern was their defense, but also their attack really lacked the firepower.
Here we go. Morocco. Morocco's have shown a lot of heart this tournament. Morocco were the dark horses, right? Nobody expected them to be first place. I expected Croatia to be first place.
The Moroccans expected it. The Moroccans were so confident, man.
I saw them all over the TV, bro. They're all over the place with the flags. And although you came to the semifinals, I can't give you top 4. Top 5, top 6. I can give you top 7 though. You played amazing, but there are some teams that are just too strong. When you came back to Croatia, you could not get a victory. They beat you 2-1. Shout out to Hrvati, but Morocco, 7th place for me.
Nah, man, I disagree with you here. Sure, some teams had great displays despite not making it as far as Morocco. I think England's a great example of that. Morocco, still, the road that they had to the semifinals is what makes this story so great. It was a tough road, man, and they got so many clean sheets. First of all, Group F was a very tough group, and they topped it. Not conceding to Croatia, beating Belgium, not conceding to them either. In the round of 16s, they didn't concede to Spain, knocked them out. Didn't concede to Portugal, knocked them out. Those are two massive teams in Europe. Of course, in the semifinals, they lost to France 2-0, but they were going through a few injuries, and the side still showed so much fighting spirit. To me, this side had the best defense in the tournament as a unit. Their attack was looking creative as well. Buffal was phenomenal. Ziyech, having him back, definitely got the best out of this side. Hakimi pressed up beautifully.
Bono, the brick wall on goal.
And Nesri scoring a Ronaldo-type goal against Cristiano Ronaldo's side. This country, man, I am so impressed with how well they did, and you got to give them all of the praise. I doubted them, but I wasn't necessarily surprised at how well they did, because I knew this group could have been a toss-up. But for them to get first, I was not expecting that. And I'm basing it really off of where they placed in this World Cup. They made it to a semifinals. We got to show them respect. I'm putting Morocco at 4th place. Now for Croatia. I put them at 3rd. They got 3rd place in the tournament. I know people are going to call me biased, but facts are facts. 3rd place is 3rd place. And I know a lot of people are complaining that this side played boring football because they took so many matches to penalties. Ridiculous claim, I'm sorry. I know they got lucky against Belgium with Lukaku's disaster class, but Livakovic still held his ground. We saw Gvardiol have an incredible tournament as well. Croatia's backline was very impressive themselves. Maybe not as unified as Morocco's. There were some weak points in there. Sosa looked nervy at moments. Juranovic as well. But the midfield was exceptional, as we all expected. Luka Modric carrying his team to a semifinal. Kovacic had incredible passing accuracy. Brozovic all over the pitch. Broke his own record that he set in 2018 for the amount covered running around the entire pitch throughout. The only problem with this side was the attack, and sometimes they got exposed, but the fact that they're able to hold off against the likes of Brazil. This side has gotten top 3 within 6 World Cups, so that's half of the World Cups they participated in. Gotta put respect on Croatia. Despite not winning the actual trophy yet, this side has only competed in the World Cup since 1998, and these are the records that they are setting. I'm putting them at 3rd place. Can't disrespect this nation. Hopefully they can continue in the future. Shout out to Hrvatska.
I can't disagree with anything you said except the placement. I mean, I put England 3rd. If England wasn't in 3rd, Croatia would be there. I put Croatia 4th place. The FIFA ranking is all wrong. Why are they so low? They need to be top 5. Croatia 4th place or 5th place in the FIFA rankings. I'm putting them 4th place. They played amazing. Luka Modric commands the field no matter what he does. Gvardiol, youngest player of the tournament, in my opinion. Livakovic, goalkeeper of the tournament, in my opinion. I don't know why Martinez got it. It is what it is. I guess you want to give the people that won the tournament trophies. It makes sense, but I don't agree that should be that way. It happens. But yeah, 4th place for Croatia for me.
And then finally in Group F, Canada. 3 for 3 losses, unfortunately, for this side. However, they had a convincing display against Belgium despite losing there. Not against Croatia, though. They chatted a bit too much before then.
We're going to go on F, Croatia.
And then against Morocco, it didn't really matter by then, but they did score another goal. They only scored 2 goals in this World Cup. This side was hyped up by many that they could tell an underdog tale here, but it's just unfortunate that they were in such a tough group. This was one of the toughest groups at the World Cup, and they were looking like one of the best nations in CONCACAF prior to this tournament. But this side overall still wasn't that impressive. They defended very poorly against Croatia. Apart from Qatar, they're the only other team to get 3 for 3 losses. So if you're going to base it off that, you could put them at 2nd to last, really. However, with some solid fights in there, like I said, I have given Canada 29th place.
I wasn't on the hype train of Canada. I didn't think they were going to do great. They did scare me when they threw that goal, scored that first minute goal against Croatia. All their energy was in that 1 minute. After that, Croatia dominated. And yeah, I mean, they did not show up. I didn't expect them to show up. They didn't show up. And that's why they lost all their games. And that's why I gave them 30th place.
Let's move on to Group G now. Brazil first. Now, this side obviously had a letdown of a tournament. Many people were expecting them to win the entire thing, and they crashed in the quarterfinals to Croatia. Since 2002, they have been getting knocked out to a European side each time. And this was not the side that they thought they would get knocked out to. They said maybe if we lose, it could be in the semifinals against Argentina. They were feeling confident. Their attack had the most depth in the tournament. And even when they played their subs, against Cameroon, they still failed to get a win. They scored 2 against Serbia, which was a solid display with Charleston wonder goal. Only 1 against Switzerland. Lost to Cameroon 1-0. Then the hope started to be there in the round of 16s after they destroyed Korea 4-1. Again, they weren't clinical enough against Croatia. Livakovic had a terrific match against them. Man of the match there. Sorry I had to show it off once again. But I was expecting more from this Brazilian attack, to be honest. I'm going to put Brazil at 7th place. I would obviously put them a lot higher if they at least made it to the semifinals. But in my opinion, in those quarterfinal fixtures where we saw a team fall short, I think England put off a better fight than Brazil. That's just my opinion though. Brazil definitely have what it takes to win tournaments in the future. This side always has so much talent, so much quality, but they failed to really progress here.
Yeah, I agree with you. England, that's why I put England number 3, and that's why I put Brazil number 5 in the whole World Cup, because they are a talented squad. They were overhyped. They just got unlucky against Croatia, and they took rest, if you want to call it rest, against Cameroon. Would have been good to see Argentina and Brazil in the finals. Everybody says it would have. It would have been probably better than Croatia 3-0, but we won't know that.
But another thing, I know the Cameroon match, they played a lot of subs, but they're known to have that depth. People are talking about how this side, on paper, with the depth they have, their subs and reserves can win a World Cup themselves, which on the surface looks true. But they failed to beat Cameroon, which a lot of people are not talking about, also resulted in them sharing points with Switzerland. Yes, they topped the group, but if Switzerland scored more goals against Serbia, Switzerland could have topped this.
Let's go to Serbia. Serbia. What a disappointing run you had. You were overhyped by both of us to go far in these World Cup stages, but you did not even get a win. Disappointing. Mitro was not on fire. Yes, he scored, 2 goals? But he was not on fire. He was extinguished. Should I talk about Switzerland now? Let's talk about Cameroon. 3-3 against Cameroon. You were up 3-1. You couldn't hold it for some reason. That disappointing. And then you go to Switzerland and you let Xhaka and Shaqiri come destroy you again. I put y'all at 28. Very disappointing. Don't deserve this overhype that we gave you. Probably won't hype you up until next World Cup, even if you do well in the qualifiers. I don't know.
I feel like Serbia had the right to be hyped up, right? We saw them top the World Cup qualifier group over Portugal, which was incredible. And then they topped their Nations League group, which obviously does not equate to this World Cup group. This is a tough World Cup group.
You pulled a turkey, bro.
Denmark and Serbia, the 2 turkeys here. The attack pulled through. I know there were injury scares with Mitro and Vlahovic, but they still scored goals, right? Serbia were still a goal threat in this competition, scoring 3 against Cameroon and 2 against Switzerland. 5 goals in total in the group stage. Impressive. So people are going out saying, oh, we didn't do well because of these injuries from our attackers, but they were still scoring on the pitch. What was the problem with Serbia that I said in the beginning that could make this team not perform is their defense, which is very much what happened in this tournament. Blew a 3-1 lead to Cameroon. Blew a 2-1 lead to Switzerland. This side was not composed in the defense whatsoever, left too many gaps. 8 goals conceded in this group stage is terrible. And I know there were some injury issues, but that match against Switzerland, I think they should have gone all out. Why did Pixie decide to sub so many crucial players? They lost all the creativity when he subbed out Dusan Tadic. They lost a lot of potency up front when they took off Vlahovic and Pulan-Jovic. Milinkovic-Savic subbed off as well. I don't understand what Pixie was doing there. Those substitutions in the Swiss match made 0 sense to me. And Serbia still have failed to qualify for a single Euro tournament. So best of luck to them in these future qualifiers. But I'm sorry, I gotta put Serbia very, very low because my expectation was so high for them. I'm putting them at 27th place because they only got 1 freaking point in this group.
Sramota.
Now for Switzerland, they drew with points against Brazil, like I said, which is very impressive. Put off a brilliant fight against Serbia. They're always fueled in that match, clearly. But they got demolished in the round of 16s to Portugal. Really thought they'd put off a better fight, man.
Same.
And no discredit to Portugal. Obviously, we know they had that phenomenal attack. They decided to experiment without Ronaldo, which paid off. Shout out to Ramos. But this Swiss side is known for having a solid defense, and they brought Sommer back, who's known to be an incredible keeper, and he looked asleep in that match. I know he was just coming out from injury, but still. Not an excuse from Switzerland to underperform there. Switzerland looked like incredible underdogs in the last Euro tournament after beating France, nearly doing it against Spain as well. But this one, I was not blown away by, really. I thought they could at least put off a good fight against Portugal. So I'm putting Switzerland at 15th place.
Yep, I agree. I have Switzerland in 15th place as well. Very good middle of the group, middle of the tournament team. Played especially well, especially against Serbia. Like, come on. When you got them two going head-to-head, you know there's going to be fireworks.
Let's move on to Cameroon. I got to say, out of those teams that got knocked out in the group stage, they really had an incredible display. Their comeback against Serbia was very, very nice. Again, terrible Serbia defending, but that chip, man, what a goal. And then they beat Brazil on the final match day, like we mentioned earlier. And I know they played a lot of their subs, but this is Brazil. 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. They only lost to Switzerland 1-0 as well. I was expecting this side to crumble in this group. This group looked too tough for them because I had so much faith in Serbia. I had so much belief that both the European teams could pull against them. So I gotta praise Cameroon here. Despite not making it to the next round, this was a very tough group for them, and they put off a wonderful display. I'm gonna give them 20th place.
Yeah, good. That's a good shot. I gave them 23. They got very unlucky in this group. They should have got a win against Serbia. They could have got a win against Switzerland. They got a win against Brazil. It's just very unlucky in this group to be that way.
Now moving on to the final group, Group H, Portugal first. Interesting road in the group stage. They looked so dominant at the beginning. Now obviously they already secured that first place spot, so it didn't really seem too crucial to get a result against South Korea, but they still lost to them 2-1. Which allowed South Korea to advance. Then they got that incredible result against Switzerland, like we just mentioned, and then they blew it against Morocco in the quarterfinals. Very interesting road Portugal had. Pretty back and forth. Santos surprised me. At moments I was like, damn, he's proved me wrong. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this is Santos ball for you. Again, they made some sacrifices in that Morocco match. He decided to start Ramos once again after he scored a hat-trick against Switzerland. Maybe should have started Ronaldo there, as he already had experience against Morocco in the last World Cup and scored against them. He was very underwhelming in this tournament, only scoring 1 penalty. Portugal still made it to the quarterfinals regardless. There were some incredible talking points. Ramos only excelled in 1 game, as we saw, but the likes of Bruno Fernandes really proved me wrong. I thought he wouldn't be able to excel for the national team the way he did, and he was the star man against Uruguay, their toughest opponent in the group stage. I'm giving Portugal 8th place.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, 8th place, right below Morocco, because Morocco is the reason they're new guy Ramos, the new Ronaldo against Switzerland, and proving he's the new guy for Portugal. He might prove it. Then you got Rafael Leao.
Yeah, this Portugal side has such a bright future, and now that Santos is sacked, this side might mean business in the future. Watch out, Irfan, when they play Bosnia. Now for Uruguay, obviously very disappointing in this World Cup. Got knocked out due to South Korea scoring more goals than them. They shared the same amount of points, which is heartbreaking. Couldn't score a single goal against South Korea or Portugal, and then they scored 2 against Ghana. So, although they beat Ghana, in a sense, Ghana kind of got the last laugh against them. They stopped them from advancing. They broke their hearts. And South Korea came out of nowhere.
Uruguay very unlucky this tournament. I'm going to give them 21st place of the World Cup.
They didn't concede any against South Korea, but again, like I said, they couldn't score, which is pretty interesting considering the fact that they have so many star players. Obviously, Suarez and Cavani are aging, but then you've got the likes of Prime Valverde out there that couldn't necessarily be the difference maker. Bentancur also has been fantastic for Tottenham. Uruguay were not convincing, I'm sorry, and I put them at 19th place. Now taking a look at South Korea.
South Korea. Shout out to South Korea. Have you seen Kim? What about Kim? And Kim? And Kim? Another Kim. All these Kims, bro. They're amazing. South Korea put on a performance. Who would have thought that South Korea would get 2nd place? I didn't expect that to happen. They broke my bracket already. I put Uruguay 2nd place. They put on a show in the group stages. They come to the round of 16. Couldn't be Brazil. And with that, I give them 20th place.
This South Korea side, one of the more exciting round of 16 teams. Didn't concede against Uruguay, so that 0-0 result was in their favor. And then everyone was saying the Uruguay-Ghana match would be the decider of which of those teams would advance to 2nd. But no, South Korea comes out of nowhere to beat Portugal, and they're the ones to get 2nd themselves. Yeah, they got dominated by Brazil, but they also scored a beautiful goal in that match. To me, although they got battered in the round of 16s, man, the fact that this side just came out of nowhere to make it to the next round after everybody thought they were down and out, they did on the final match day. They deserve all the praise for not giving up. I'm giving South Korea 12th place. And the final team we are looking at, Ghana. Yes, they were last place with 3 points, but they had a very interesting road, man. Despite not scoring any against Uruguay, they scored 2 against Portugal and 3 against South Korea, so 5 goals. What a thriller of a match against South Korea, by the way, just edging them by 1 goal as well. Reverse for Portugal, they beat them 3-2. Ghana were showing a lot of heart out there, and this squad was obviously somewhat new, as they were bringing on so many new players into the team that had dual citizenship, but they failed at the end against Uruguay, which is what brought them down. But even if they were able to scrape a point in that, they potentially could have advanced. So to me, out of all those teams that finished last place, this was an extremely interesting national team to watch at this tournament, and I still gotta give them some praise for putting off incredible fights. Which is why I put them at 25th. It's not too high, but definitely better than most of the 4th place teams.
You talk about their offense. I'll talk about how atrocious their defense was. They conceded 7 goals the whole tournament. Yes, they're firepower, but they're also conceded. They couldn't get a point against Uruguay. They almost beat Portugal. They couldn't do it. But yeah, you put them 25th. I put them 26th. Gonna put on a show, man. And I would love to have seen them like they did in 2010 World Cup against the USA. That was fire, but Ghana are a good African team. I'm sure they'll be back in the next World Cup.
There you have it, guys. Those are our complete rankings. Overall, we went for some similar takes, but definitely some different ones along the way. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below where each of us messed up, and share your rankings with us as well. Hit that like button if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. La cu noite.
Ciao!